Hi, this is Jocelyn. My small group meets on Tuesday nights at 6:30 in South Canby, and this is my small group.
Hey everyone, Jeremy and Matt here. We are glad to be with you in this way. Before we get into this week's content, we want to acknowledge that we have very similar wardrobes. It's almost as if we got uniforms for Chris's Corner, but that's not true. We just happen to wake up today and make similar decisions. So, but hey, it's an honor to feel a little closer to your fit, as they say. Is that what? We'll find out later. Yeah, and also want to acknowledge that we've got some great pictures up of some small groups. I got to be at Alan Irene's small group, which is this picture right here, a couple weeks ago. I love getting to visit small groups. It is so sweet what is happening in all these different spaces. And one thing I want to honor is there was a few people at some of the small groups I've been to recently that shared how showing up at small group was like kind of, you're pretty nervous to do it, but felt like I need this. And I just want to honor that courage. It is a scary thing for many to go to a small group and then be willing to share a thing. And just want to honor the courage of going, I'm going to go after a community. I know this is going to be good for me. And we're seeing that it is good for so many and is bringing about friendship and depth and a breaking through around fear. And so really, really cool. And love what's happening. And so this week, Matt, you and my sister Sarah taught the text in Mark. We jumped forward because we're leading up to Easter, so we're in Mark 10. Wondering if you could read the text that you taught from, and then I'm going to ask some questions about it.
Here we go, Mark 10:35 through 45, it says this. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. They replied, let one of us sit at your right hand and the other at your left in your glory. You don't know what you're asking, said Jesus. Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. Right. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.
It's such a beautiful story and also a funny story. When you're reading it, I just had this thought come to mind for the first time. I'm like, and hopefully this encourages you. It kind of encourages me. Like, this guy's been walking with Jesus for a while, and they heard a lot of his teachings, and they really miss it. They're like really missing it. And I don't know if this is true, but I was like, when they're like, we want you to do for us whatever we ask, I'm like, maybe they were even thinking about a command that was like, ask, it'll be given to you. I don't know. But they're like, we're going to go for this. And Jesus like, like, you're missing it. You're missing what the asks should be about. But the encouragement is like, man, isn't it so true that even we can be following Jesus a while and still miss it contextually and in our journeys. And he's kind to us. He leans in and he pulls us towards truth. But that's what we see in the story. Anyway, it's just awesome. There's a lot in this. And so just a few questions to help consolidate, and then we'll throw it back to you for continued conversation. But firstly, I'd love if you could just help us understand what they're asking. You know, that they're I mean, there's things we can imagine, like sit at your right hand, left, right hand, whatever. But this, but what's the ask? Help us understand the imagery a little bit, and what's wrong with the ask.
Yeah, I think in this moment, like the sense is, when you look at the sense of sitting at right and left hand of Jesus, like is the question, are they asking, can we be in some type of celestial setting? Can we is it this like way out there request of like trying to plan ahead.
We want to get our booking in.
Yeah.
Can we be,
Yeah. Is that this moment? But I think what's happening here, if you start to trace kind of context and even the language that Jesus uses here of him being the Son of Man, like what they're asking is essentially a question of like royal position. I think they have this misunderstanding that what Jesus is ushering in is this kingdom that's going to overthrow the kind of the Roman Empire, like this visual or this literal empire in front of them. And so they're asking for status. They're asking for a place at the table. When you think about the language of cup and baptism, like they're asking what seems to be this request to be in positions of authority. And so it's a posturing that they're undertaking, and they're trying to go, Jesus, remember us. Like, remember us.
Yeah. And in Jesus' response, I mean, it's some of the most beautiful teaching that exists on just redefining what it means to lead.
Yeah.
Redefining what it means to be great. And that as an exclamation mark on what the kingdom is about. But can you just help us understand a little bit more of like, what is Jesus' response? What's he saying? What's he correcting, and what's he teaching about the nature of the kingdom here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I love in this moment is that Jesus has he has such grounds to be firm and almost like rebuke James and John for coming at him with this request.
Guys.
But he responds with curiosity and a question, which is in some ways baffling for the Son of Man to respond in such a way to these disciples.
Like leaning in. Yeah.
And he helps them get under the hood of what's going on in their hearts in terms of the question, which I think he does that for us ongoing. Like that's what he's often after, or always after, is going, like, let's get under the hood of that. Let's understand and so what he does is he goes like, there's an alternative. Like he gets to the point where he says like, you're after power and significance, but there's an alternative vision of what I'm going to set before you in terms of what that means. And so he draws it down to go like, you look at it in terms of this vertical ascent, in terms of this upward mobility. And actually my impression is that glory and honor and power and true meaning and significance are actually, they're going to come through a downward descent. And he's going to embody that most fully in his move towards the cross. But he's saying like, there's a different vision of what it means to be significant and powerful in my kingdom.
Yeah. And what's obvious but worth noting is like, Jesus isn't teaching something that he's not living out. In fact, he says it in the verse. He's like, this is my ministry. And you're meant to follow me in my ministry. But what a beautiful thing it is that even over these next few weeks leading up to Easter and celebrating Easter, we're going to see the king of the kingdom that's about lowliness and servanthood be lowly and serve and show that that's the way to true victory. And so it's stunning. It's so important. Matt, just want to ask you though, what do you feel like this means for us? I'm struck by the fact that this issue and misunderstanding is alive and well today, without getting into it too much. I mean, we have centuries of church history, so much beauty, so much misunderstanding, and people not obeying Jesus and not living in the way that he's called them to. But then that exists in our day as well. And so what does it mean for us to listen to Jesus' words and to take up his call to serve in the way that he serves?
Yeah, I think there's layers to this. Like there's a lot of nuance going like, okay, what is the ask of Jesus, or what is the invitation? I think is even more what he's setting before them. And I think it in a lot of ways it's an invitation to come and die. Like that's Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who says like the invitation of the cross is to come and die. And in the process, what he's also saying, like, and again, there's complexity to that in terms of what that looks like worked out, but it's servanthood. It's a slave to all, which again, thinking about who he's speaking with, that would have been highly abrasive language for them in that space. And so he's saying though, like, there is something about this process of moving towards death and moving towards giving yourself away and self-giving love that's actually going to result in life. And it's in this process, it's like, it's not a death unto death, it's a death unto life.
Wow.
And so there's this exchange that he's saying, like, what people don't understand in this moment is like, you think about this language of seeds that like give birth to something new. Like there's this exchange that he's inviting people to participate, his disciples to participate in. And I think he's inviting us to participate in an exchange where we lay things down, where we give ourselves up for the sake of actually something more beautiful, something richer, something more profound in terms of his kingdom vision.
Yeah, beautiful. So some things we'd love to invite you to talk about. One would be like, how have you seen the kingdom grow through servanthood and through lowliness and through people being like Jesus? And then another would be to think about Jesus' words, like that he said to his disciples, that but to hear them over our hearts, like not so with you, like it's different for you, and what it means for us to live differently than those around us, because certainly that's the implication. I mean, like we're not to do things the way the world does things. We're not to win in the way the world wins, and then we'll have some other discussion questions for you as well, and realize there, like you alluded to this, like there are tensions that exist here, and so encourage you to chat about some of those. In small groups, such a good setting for that as well. Like, where does this rub up against you in a way that might be uncomfortable? But then just encourage us to come back to, though, but what is Jesus saying authoritatively, with love in his eyes towards us, but authoritatively saying this is the kingdom way, and for us to grow. The desires that we would grow as a larger community, but also in our specific communities, and what it means to follow the servant king, and to live like him in our neighborhoods, in our relationships, in our workplace, in our families. So we love you. Thanks so much, Matt. And I hope you have a great discussion.